Have you ever wondered why one small comment, one careless word, or one thoughtless action from someone else can shake your entire mood? It's almost as if their behavior has the power to pull strings inside your mind, dragging you into anger or irritation before you even realize what's happening. That loss of control feels frustrating because deep down you know you are capable of so much more than being a prisoner to another person's actions. Anger may erupt in seconds, but the damage it leaves can linger for hours, sometimes days, poisoning your focus, your energy, and your peace. The truth is, anger is not a force outside of you. It is a storm created within you, and every time you let someone else stir it up, you hand them the keys to your inner world. You surrender your power, your clarity, and your freedom. That is the silent prison anger builds. It keeps you trapped in cycles of reactivity, making you believe you have no choice but to lash out, defend, or stew in frustration. But you do have a choice, and discovering it is the first step to becoming untouchable. Science shows that when you get angry, your brain is hijacked by the amygdala, the part responsible for emotional survival. Your body floods with stress hormones, your heart rate spikes, and your thinking becomes clouded. This isn't strength. This isn't control. This is you being pulled away from your higher self. And every time you fall into this trap, you not only lose your peace, you lose your power to shape the moment. Imagine how many opportunities are lost, how many relationships are strained, and how much inner energy is wasted simply because you allowed anger to decide for you. But here's the powerful truth. You are not your anger. You are not your irritation. These emotions do not define you unless you let them. Anger is nothing more than energy that can be noticed, redirected, and dissolved. The moment you realize this, you begin to rise above the control others seem to have over you. Suddenly their words don't cut as deeply. Their actions don't pierce your calm. Their negativity no longer writes the story of your day. Think about it. What could your life feel like if you were no longer bothered by what people say or do? Imagine moving through your day with unshakable calm, carrying a presence so strong that no insult can touch you, no negativity can penetrate you, no frustration can control you. That is not a dream. It is a skill, a mastery available to anyone willing to step out of the prison of reactivity and into the freedom of self-control. This wisdom is not about suppressing your emotions. Suppression only makes the fire burn hotter inside. It's about understanding the nature of anger so deeply that it loses its grip on you. It's about watching the storm rise without being swept away by it. It's about holding your ground, breathing through the moment, and choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, freedom over slavery to emotion. Stay with this message until the very end, because what you're about to unlock is not just a technique, not just a strategy. It's a complete transformation of how you live, how you think, and how you feel. If you truly want to reclaim your peace and never again be shaken by the words or actions of others, then what comes next will give you the wisdom and strength you've been waiting for. The reward is freedom. The reward is power. The reward is the unbreakable calm that makes you untouchable. Every moment you allow yourself to be bothered by someone else, you give them access to the most valuable space you own, your mind. Think about how many times a careless driver, a rude coworker, or a negative comment online has lived rent-free inside your head for hours. The situation ended long ago, but you carried it forward, replaying it, fueling it, and letting it shape your emotions. That is the hidden cost of being easily disturbed. Your peace, your focus, your joy are stolen by something that should have lasted only a few seconds. Psychologists call this emotional residue. When you don't release irritation quickly, it lingers and contaminates the rest of your day. The brain has a negativity bias, meaning it holds on to unpleasant experiences more tightly than positive ones. So when someone bothers you, your mind is wired to grip it, magnify it, and revisit it. This is why a single insult can feel louder than 100 compliments. It's not because the insult has real power, It's because your brain has been conditioned to give it more attention than it deserves. But what happens when you flip the script? What happens when you decide that your peace is more valuable than holding on to someone else's behavior? You take back control. You stop paying the emotional tax that irritation demands. You stop bleeding energy over things that cannot define you unless you choose to let them. That's when life feels lighter. That's when your mind feels clear. That's when you realize nothing is more expensive than giving your peace away for free. When you let yourself be bothered, you unconsciously place your emotional stability in the hands of others. If they behave kindly, you feel good. If they don't, you feel bad. This is emotional dependence, and it keeps you at the mercy of circumstances you can't control. But freedom begins the moment you shift your focus inward. Freedom begins when you decide that no person, no action, no comment has the authority to dictate how you feel. This is not coldness, this is not apathy. This is strength, this is mastery. Imagine waking up with a mindset so steady that whether people praise you or criticize you, you remain the same. Whether they ignore you or notice you, you remain the same. Whether they try to provoke you or uplift you, you remain the same. That consistency is not weakness, it is the highest form of inner power. Because when your state of mind is stable, you become unstoppable. Your energy is not wasted on petty conflicts. Your focus is not broken by meaningless noise. Your direction is not shaken by people who cannot see your vision. This level of mastery does more than protect your peace. It magnifies your presence. People are drawn to those who are calm under pressure, steady under criticism, and unshaken by negativity. It signals strength. It signals confidence. It signals leadership. And it makes people respect you in ways anger never could. Anger demands attention, but calm earns respect. Irritation pushes people away, but composure draws them in. Every time you choose not to be bothered, you make a silent declaration. My peace is mine, and I refuse to sell it cheaply. And every time you hold your ground in the face of irritation, you strengthen the muscle of emotional independence. This is not a single act. It is a practice, a discipline, a way of life, and the more you commit to it, the more unshakable you become. Because the truth is simple, what disturbs you only has power if you give it permission. And once you realize that, no one on this earth can touch the calm that belongs to you. There is a moment between what happens to you and how you respond. Most people never notice it because they move too quickly from trigger to reaction, from irritation to explosion. But within that small space lies your freedom. It is the gap where you choose, where you decide, where you create who you want to be. When you ignore it, you fall into automatic reaction. When you see it, you rise into deliberate response. That difference may seem small, but it is the very difference between chaos and mastery. Reaction is impulsive. It is the mind on autopilot, the body hijacked by old habits and emotions. Reaction is survival mode, the primitive part of the brain pulling you into fight or flight. It feels powerful in the moment, but it leaves you empty afterward, drained, regretful, and weaker. Response, on the other hand, is conscious. It is the power to pause, to breathe, to evaluate, and to act from clarity rather than chaos. Response is the skill of stepping outside the heat of the moment and choosing the outcome you want instead of being dragged by the emotion you fear. Psychologists call this emotional regulation. It is the ability to manage your internal state rather than letting your internal state manage you. Studies show that those who practice this not only experience less stress but also achieve more success, healthier relationships, and deeper fulfillment. Why? Because they are not constantly at the mercy of emotional storms. They steer their own ship. They hold the wheel firmly in their hands. You must understand that you are not powerless when someone provokes you. You are not helpless when irritation rises inside. You always have that moment, the sacred pause where choice exists. You can either surrender it to anger or claim it for peace. The person who cuts you off, the one who mocks you, the one who disrespects you, they can spark the fire, but they cannot decide whether it burns you. Only you decide that. Only you. The strength to pause is not weakness. It is not letting others win. It is not avoidance, it is mastery. The weak lash out because they cannot bear the discomfort of holding the fire inside. The strong pause, let the fire cool, and then act with precision and clarity. This does not mean silence. It does not mean passivity. It means you speak and act from strength, not from the chaos of being triggered. Every time you practice this, you grow stronger. At first, it feels difficult. The urge to react will be loud, pulling you like a current. But if you pause for even 3 breaths, if you step back and ask yourself, what outcome do I want here? You shift the entire trajectory of the moment. You reclaim authority over yourself. You show anger that it does not own you. Imagine a life where you never again regret the words you said in anger, never again replay the scene wishing you had handled it differently. Imagine a life where your responses are deliberate, powerful, and aligned with who you truly are. That life begins when you recognize the gap, when you honor the pause, when you choose response over reaction. This is the foundation of unshakable calm. And it is the key to unlocking the kind of freedom most people spend their entire lives searching for. The greatest fuel behind anger is the ego. It is the voice inside that whispers, "How dare they?" It is the fragile identity that constantly seeks validation, constantly defends itself, constantly takes offense. The ego wants to be right. It wants to be respected. It wants to be noticed. And when it doesn't get what it demands, it erupts with irritation, defensiveness, and rage. This is why small words cut so deeply and small slights feel so heavy, because the ego interprets them as attacks on who you are. But here's the truth. You are not your ego. You are not your image, your reputation, or the labels others place on you. You are deeper than that. You are more expansive than that. The ego is only a mask, and anger is the mask screaming when it feels threatened. When you see this clearly, you begin to understand that the insults, judgments, or disrespect of others do not wound your true self. They only threaten the fragile illusion of the ego. And illusions only have the power you give them. Psychology teaches that most conflicts are not really about the external situation. They are about identity. When people feel their identity is challenged, they fight. They lash out because they are trying to protect an image. But the moment you no longer cling to that image, you free yourself. If someone mocks you and you do not need their approval, there is nothing to defend. If someone disrespects you and you do not tie your worth to their words, there is nothing to prove. If someone challenges you and you know your value does not come from winning, there is nothing to fear. This is detachment from ego, and it is the ultimate shield against anger. The less you cling to who you think you must be in the eyes of others, the less power they have to shake you. You stop living as a puppet pulled by insults and start living as a master anchored in truth. Imagine standing so firmly in who you are that no criticism, no judgment, no rejection can move you. That is not arrogance, that is freedom. The ego tells you that calmness is weakness, that you must always defend, always fight back, always prove yourself. But wisdom reveals the opposite. Real strength is quiet. Real strength is calm. Real strength is so secure, it does not need to prove anything. When you detach from ego, your peace is no longer conditional. It does not rise and fall with how people treat you. It remains steady, unbroken, untouchable. Every time you feel anger, trace it back to the ego. Ask yourself, what am I really defending here? What part of me feels threatened? More often than not, you will see it is not your true self, but the mask you wear. And masks do not need protection. They only need to be seen for what they are. This awareness dissolves the fire before it grows. It leaves you clear, unshaken, and free. Letting go of ego does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop being controlled. It means you can engage with life without being enslaved by approval or opinion. It means you can walk into any situation with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their value cannot be touched. That is why detaching from ego is not only wisdom, it is power. It is the kind of power that makes you unbothered, unbreakable, and completely free. Anger loses its grip when you understand how it works inside your mind and body. It is not some uncontrollable force that comes out of nowhere. It is a predictable pattern, a surge of chemicals, a chain reaction that can be broken the moment you know what is happening. When someone triggers you, the amygdala in your brain sends a signal of danger, even if the threat is not physical. Your body floods with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart races, your breathing shortens, your muscles tense. This is your survival system activating, preparing you to fight or run. But here's the truth. Most of the situations that anger you are not life or death. They do not require survival mode, yet your brain treats them as if they do. That is why anger feels overwhelming. It is your ancient biology overreacting to modern challenges. This is why self-mastery is not about suppressing anger, but about retraining your response. The more you practice awareness, the more you rewire your brain to pause before the storm takes over. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to change and form new pathways. Every time you catch yourself before reacting, you strengthen the circuits of control. You make it easier the next time and the next until calm becomes your default state. What once felt impossible becomes natural. What once felt uncontrollable becomes effortless. Simple practices have been proven to weaken the grip of anger. Deep breathing signals safety to the nervous system, lowering your heart rate and calming your mind. Mindfulness teaches you to notice emotions without being consumed by them, observing the fire without stepping into it. Even delaying your response by just a few seconds interrupts the automatic cycle of reactivity. These are not small techniques, they are weapons of mastery. They are the tools that separate those who are slaves to their emotions from those who command them. When you look at those who radiate calm under pressure, understand that it is not luck. It is not that they were born different. It is that they have practiced the art of self-regulation until it became part of who they are. They have trained their nervous system to remain centered while others fall apart. And you can do the same. The same biology that triggers anger is the same biology that can be trained to stay calm. The same brain that reacts can be rewired to respond with clarity and strength. Think about the power this gives you. If others lose their temper while you remain steady, who truly holds the advantage? If others shout and stumble while you stay clear and focused, who truly leads? The one who controls themselves controls the situation. The one who does not is always a victim of it. This is why emotional mastery is not just peace, it is power, it is influence, it is the silent force that makes people listen, respect, and follow. Every breath you take when anger rises is a declaration that you are greater than your impulses. Every pause you create is proof that your mind belongs to you, not to your triggers. And every time you practice these small acts of mastery, you shape a future where anger no longer controls you, where irritation no longer dictates your mood, where peace is not fragile but unbreakable. This is the science of freedom. And once you embrace it, nothing and no one will ever have the power to disturb your calm again. Calm is not something you create in the middle of chaos. It is something you build every single day, brick by brick, through the choices you make and the habits you practice. Just as a warrior does not sharpen their sword in the heat of battle, you cannot expect to summon strength when anger strikes if you have not prepared yourself in advance. Emotional resilience is not born in the moment of conflict. It is built in the quiet hours when no one is watching. Your mind and body are deeply connected. When your body is weak, sleep-deprived, and neglected, anger takes root more easily. Science shows that fatigue lowers self-control, stress increases reactivity, and poor health makes irritability a constant companion. But when you care for yourself, through rest, exercise, and nourishment, you create an inner baseline of strength. Your body supports your mind, and your mind supports your calm. What feels unbearable when you are drained becomes manageable when you are strong. Meditation is one of the most powerful practices for building emotional armor. It trains the mind to observe thoughts and feelings without judgment, to see them rise and fall without attaching to them. With consistent practice, you begin to notice anger forming before it explodes, giving you the power to step back and choose a different path. Gratitude is another shield. When you cultivate gratitude daily, your brain rewires itself to focus on what is right rather than what is wrong. And anger, which feeds on dissatisfaction and lack, struggles to survive in a mind filled with appreciation. These habits may seem small, but their impact is immense. Each breath of mindfulness, each act of gratitude, each moment of self-care is a layer of protection. Over time, these layers become armor, light, flexible, and unbreakable. And this armor does not close you off from life, it opens you up. It frees you to engage fully without fear of being broken by negativity. When you are consistent with these practices, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Situations that once irritated you no longer penetrate as deeply. Words that once stung lose their edge. The chaos of others no longer pulls you into its storm. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are no longer raw and exposed. You are shielded by strength, by clarity, by discipline. This is why the strongest people are often the calmest. It is not that life spares them challenges. It is that they have built a foundation too solid to be shaken by small disturbances. They live with a kind of inner wealth that no insult, no disrespect, no inconvenience can steal. And this wealth is available to you not tomorrow, not someday, but the moment you decide to commit to the practices that fortify your mind and body. Every choice you make is either strengthening your armor or weakening it. Every habit is either making you more resilient or more fragile. And every day is an opportunity to prepare yourself so deeply that when life tests you, your calm remains untouched. Because true power is not the ability to fight every battle, it is the ability to remain unshaken, to walk through fire and emerge untouched, to carry within you an unbreakable calm that nothing and no one can destroy. Perspective is the lens that determines whether a moment becomes a source of anger or a source of wisdom. Two people can face the same situation, and one will explode with frustration, while the other remains calm and untouched. The difference is not in what happened, but in how they interpret it. The mind creates meaning, and meaning creates emotion. Change the way you see, and you change the way you feel. When someone speaks harshly to you, the instinct is to take it personally, to see it as an attack. But if you step back and look deeper, you may realize their words are more about their own pain than about you. A person overflowing with negativity spills it wherever they go, and if you understand this, you stop absorbing it as your own. Their anger does not define you. Their bitterness is not a mirror of your worth. It is simply a reflection of their state of mind. With this perspective, irritation dissolves because you see the truth. They are fighting their own battles, not you. Cognitive reframing, a tool studied in psychology, shows that by shifting interpretation, you transform emotion. When you ask yourself, what else could this mean? What else could be true here? You break free from the automatic path of anger. Instead of feeling attacked, you may see someone struggling. Instead of feeling disrespected, you may see someone blind to their own behavior. And instead of feeling diminished, you may recognize a situation as a test of your own strength. The trigger becomes a teacher. The insult becomes an exercise in mastery. The disturbance becomes an opportunity to grow. Perspective also teaches you humility. You realize that just as others are flawed, so are you. You have hurt without meaning to. You have spoken carelessly. You have been blind to how your actions affected someone else. This awareness softens the edge of judgment. It reminds you that mistakes are not always malice. Often they are simply the clumsiness of being human. And with this understanding, the anger that once seemed justified begins to dissolve into compassion. Compassion does not mean accepting poor behavior or excusing harm. It means protecting yourself without poisoning yourself. It means drawing boundaries without carrying bitterness. It means seeing clearly without being dragged down emotionally. And when you operate from this state, your calm becomes unshakable. Because you are no longer interpreting everything as an offense. You are interpreting it as information, as feedback, as insight. This is the power of perspective. It takes the sting out of moments that once dominated you. It allows you to rise above the smallness of conflict and see the bigger picture. It shows you that anger is often a narrow vision, a tunnel that blinds you to what is real. But when you expand your vision, you see choices where there once seemed to be none. You see freedom where there once was only reaction. Every time you shift your perspective, you reclaim your authority. You remind yourself that you are not a victim of what happens, but the creator of what it means. And meaning is everything. Because when you control the meaning, you control the emotion. And when you control the emotion, you control your life. This is why perspective is not just clarity, it is liberation. It frees you from the prison of anger and guides you into the vast space of peace where no one can touch you. Holding on to anger is like gripping a burning coal with the hope that it will hurt someone else. The only one who suffers is you. Every grudge, every resentment, every replayed moment of irritation is weight you carry, chains you lock around your own spirit. People believe they gain power by holding on, by refusing to let go, but in reality, the longer you cling, the weaker you become. Because while the moment has passed, you remain trapped inside it. Letting go is not about ignoring what happened. It is not about pretending the hurt didn't exist. It is about refusing to let it dominate you. Forgiveness is not about excusing the other person. It is about freeing yourself. When you let go, you break the chain that ties you to the pain. You reclaim the energy that was bleeding into anger. You step out of the prison you unknowingly built and walk into a space of peace that no one else can control. The mind loves to replay offenses, to rehearse what it should have said, what it should have done. This cycle gives the illusion of control, but it only deepens the wound. The more you replay it, the more power you give it. The more power you give it, the more it defines you. But when you interrupt that pattern, when you consciously release it, you rise above it. You stop carrying the burden of proving who was right and who was wrong, and instead, you choose freedom. Psychological studies show that forgiveness reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, and increases overall happiness. But beyond science, the deeper reward is emotional clarity. When you let go, you create space. Space for peace, space for growth, space for joy that anger has been suffocating. You cannot fill your life with light if you are still clinging to darkness. You cannot rise into freedom if you are still dragging the past behind you. Releasing anger does not mean being passive. It does not mean tolerating abuse or allowing harmful people to stay in your life. It means you decide that their actions will not live inside your heart. You can walk away without carrying their negativity with you. You can draw boundaries without building walls of bitterness. You can choose peace without needing revenge. This is strength, not weakness. It takes far more power to let go than it does to hold on. Every moment you choose release over resentment, you prove to yourself that nothing outside of you controls your inner state. This is the essence of mastery. Life will always present reasons to be angry, but freedom comes when you no longer take the bait. You rise above the hooks and walk your own path, untouched by the traps of ego and pain. Imagine the weight lifting from your shoulders the moment you decide to let go. Imagine the lightness of waking up free from the mental replay of old wounds. Imagine the calm that comes when you realize no one has the power to poison your spirit unless you allow them. That is the gift of letting go. It is not for them. It is for you. It is your doorway to peace, your return to power, your declaration that your mind belongs only to you. And once you taste this freedom, you will never again let anger chain you down. Peace is not something you find outside yourself. It is something you protect within. No one can disturb it without your permission. When you recognize this truth, you stop chasing control over people and situations, and you start mastering the only thing you were ever meant to control, your own inner world. This shift is life-changing, because the moment you stop demanding that others change for you to feel calm, you step into a level of power most people will never know. Boundaries are not always visible. They are not always spoken. The strongest boundaries are the invisible ones you build within your own mind. They are the quiet decisions you make about what will and will not be allowed to touch your peace. Someone can throw insults, but your boundary determines whether those insults are absorbed or deflected. Someone can act with negativity, but your boundary decides whether that negativity takes root in you or dies the moment it reaches your skin. Psychology calls this a locus of control, the belief about where your power lies. Those who live with an external locus of control are constantly disturbed because they believe their emotions depend on what others do. They are prisoners of circumstance. Those with an internal locus of control understand that while they cannot dictate others' behavior, they can always dictate their response. They are free because their stability is built on something no one else can touch. When you set inner boundaries, you no longer need to harden yourself or withdraw from the world. You can remain open, loving, and compassionate without being shaken. Because you know that your mind is protected. You know that peace is your decision, not their gift. You know that calmness is not dependent on perfect behavior from others, but on the discipline you've built within. Every time you let someone's negativity define your state, you surrender your power. But every time you decide, this does not enter me, you reclaim it. And with each choice, you grow stronger. You realize that other people are free to behave however they choose, but you are free to choose how it touches you, or if it touches you at all. That is the boundary no one can cross without your consent. This is why true calm is not fragile. It cannot be broken by a rude word, a disrespectful act, or a moment of chaos. Because it does not depend on the outside world, it is anchored inside. It is the unspoken shield of someone who has mastered themselves. And the deeper you anchor it, the less you are swayed by storms, the less you are manipulated by others, and the more you live as the author of your own experience. Imagine living with that kind of stability. Imagine waking up knowing that no matter what others say or do, your peace remains intact. Imagine moving through life with an inner boundary so clear that negativity cannot stick to you, irritation cannot take hold, and anger cannot grow roots. This is not a fantasy. It is a discipline, and once you claim it, you carry within you a power that nothing and no one can shake. Calmness grows when you learn the art of non-reaction. The world conditions you to respond instantly, to defend, to prove, to fight back. But real strength is not in quick retaliation. It is in the pause. That brief space between what happens and how you respond is where your power lives. In that silence, you choose whether to rise above or fall into the trap of anger. The louder the chaos around you, the more powerful your pause becomes. It is a declaration that you will not be pulled like a puppet by the strings of others' behavior. When someone provokes you, what they really want is control over your state. If you lash out, they win. If you break your own calm, they succeed. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you refuse to give them the reaction they crave, you strip away their power. You show them, and more importantly, you show yourself, that your emotions are not up for negotiation. You are not a mirror reflecting their behavior. You are the author of your response, and you choose to write with strength, not weakness. Science confirms this. The brain's amygdala reacts instantly to threats, fueling anger and fear. But your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, gives you the ability to step back, to pause, and to respond with clarity. Every time you choose the pause, you strengthen the pathways of self-control. You rewire your brain for calm. You build a mental habit that turns silence into power and reaction into wisdom. Over time, you find that what once shook you now barely stirs you. What once set you on fire now passes like wind across your skin. Non-reaction does not mean you are weak. It does not mean you accept disrespect. It means you refuse to waste your energy on what does not deserve it. It means you preserve your power for actions that matter, for battles that are worthy, for goals that truly elevate your life. It means you are not a slave to impulse, but a master of yourself, and that mastery commands respect more than any outburst ever could. Think of how liberating it feels when someone expects you to explode, but instead you remain calm, steady, and unmoved. that silence shakes them more than your anger ever could. Because it proves that their chaos cannot penetrate you. It proves that you are untouchable. That kind of calm is not just emotional, it is magnetic. People notice it, they feel it, they are drawn to it, because in a world of constant reaction, the one who controls their emotions becomes a rare force of influence. The pause is not easy at first. Your mind will want to fight, to defend, to argue, but with practice it becomes natural. Each time you choose stillness over reaction, you carve strength deeper into your identity, and eventually your calm becomes unshakable. Not because life gets easier, not because people change, but because you have learned the ultimate discipline, the discipline of not letting others dictate your inner state. This discipline is what makes you untouchable. This is what makes anger unnecessary. This is what makes peace your default, not your exception, and the more you practice it, the more unstoppable you become. Peace is not just the absence of conflict, it is the presence of deep understanding. When you learn to see beyond the surface of people's actions, you stop taking everything so personally. You realize that anger, rudeness, and disrespect are not truly about you. They are reflections of what someone else is carrying inside. A person overflowing with bitterness can only spill bitterness. A person drowning in insecurity can only project insecurity. Their behavior is not a measure of your worth. It is a mirror of their inner state. This perspective changes everything. Instead of asking, why are they treating me this way? You begin asking, what pain must they be living with to act like this? That single shift removes the sting from their words and the weight from their actions. It transforms irritation into compassion and anger into clarity. Because when you see others through the lens of empathy, you refuse to let their wounds infect your spirit. You recognize their behavior as noise, not truth. And noise cannot disturb a mind trained to stay tuned to a higher frequency. Psychology calls this cognitive reframing, the ability to shift the meaning you give to events. By changing the story in your mind, you change the way you feel. This is not denial. It is mastery. Instead of labeling someone's negativity as a personal attack, you label it as a symptom of their own struggle. Instead of seeing it as an insult to your value, you see it as evidence of their lack of peace. And with that reframing, the power of their actions dissolves. They no longer have the ability to shake you because you have rewritten the meaning of the moment. When you no longer take things personally, you free yourself from a prison most people don't even realize they live in. Think about how much energy is wasted on offense, how many sleepless nights are spent replaying words, how much potential is lost because of bitterness. All of it comes from believing that others' behavior is about us. But the truth is, people act from their own fears, insecurities, and unmet needs. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you release yourself from chains that were never yours to wear. This shift is not weakness, it is strength. It does not excuse bad behavior, it protects your peace from it. It allows you to walk through life with a shield that anger cannot penetrate and irritation cannot touch. Because when you see clearly, you cannot be manipulated. You cannot be baited. You cannot be broken. Clarity makes you untouchable. Imagine how light your life becomes when you no longer absorb the poison of others. Imagine how free you feel when you stop carrying burdens that were never meant for you. Imagine how powerful you become when you choose understanding over reaction. That is the essence of true calm. Not pretending the world is perfect, but seeing it clearly and refusing to be disturbed by its imperfections. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Offense no longer sticks. Anger no longer lingers. You rise above the noise with a steady heart and a clear mind. And every time you do, you step closer to a version of yourself that nothing and no one can shake. Detachment is one of the highest forms of strength. It does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold or distant. It means you stop allowing the behavior of others to dictate your emotional state. It is the realization that your happiness cannot be held hostage by the moods, the opinions, or the actions of anyone else. Detachment is not the absence of love, it is the presence of freedom. It is choosing to love, to give, and to connect without tying your inner peace to how others respond. The human mind craves control, and this craving is often the root of anger. You want people to act a certain way, to treat you with respect, to mirror back the effort you give. But the more you demand control over others, the more frustration you create, because no matter how much you try, you cannot control another person's heart. The only thing you can truly master is your own. And when you release the illusion of control, you release the chains that tie your emotions to things beyond your reach. Psychologists describe this as radical acceptance. It is the practice of acknowledging reality as it is, instead of exhausting yourself by wishing it were different. This acceptance is not resignation. It does not mean you tolerate abuse or stay silent in the face of wrong. It means you see the truth clearly. You cannot force others to be what you expect them to be. You cannot demand the world bend to your will, but you can always decide how you meet reality. And the moment you accept this, your anger loses its fuel. Detachment teaches you to stand strong in the middle of chaos. You can still show kindness, but you no longer cling to outcomes. You can still give your best, but you no longer suffer if it goes unnoticed. You can still love deeply, but you no longer break if love is not returned in the way you hoped. This kind of freedom transforms you, because when nothing outside has the power to shatter you, you step into a life of unshakable calm. Every time you detach, you reclaim a piece of your energy. Energy that was once wasted on trying to fix others, prove yourself, or force situations now becomes fuel for growth, purpose, and peace. You stop bleeding your strength into battles that do not matter. You stop burning your spirit in fires you did not start. You begin to rise above, not because the world gets easier, but because you are no longer chained to it. The deepest form of detachment is not withdrawal, but presence. You remain fully engaged in life, but your spirit is anchored. The waves may rise, but they cannot drown you. The storms may come, but they cannot shake you, because you know that your peace is not borrowed, it is built. You know that nothing outside has the authority to break the stillness you cultivate within. And when you live this way, anger no longer feels necessary. Being bothered no longer feels natural. You have outgrown it. This is where your true power lies, not in changing others, not in controlling life, but in mastering the art of being untouchable while still fully alive, fully loving, and fully free. Calmness is not built in the moments of peace. It is forged in the moments of tension. Every challenge, every insult, every inconvenience becomes a chance to train your mind. Most people see conflict as something to escape, but those who grow see it as practice. Each time life tests you, it hands you an opportunity to strengthen the muscles of patience, discipline, and control. The question is never whether the world will test you. The question is whether you will use those tests to rise or to fall. When irritation arises, your instinct may be to fight it, to push it away. But the key is not resistance, it is awareness. To notice the heat building inside you without letting it explode. To acknowledge the trigger without becoming the trigger. This awareness breaks the cycle, because the moment you see anger rising, you are no longer lost in it. You have stepped outside of it. And in that space, you are free to choose a higher response. This is how emotional resilience is built. Just as your body grows stronger through resistance in the gym, your mind grows stronger through resistance in life. Stress, conflict, and negativity are weights. If you carry them with awareness, they build your strength. If you avoid them or react blindly, they break you down. The choice belongs to you. Every trigger is either training or torment, depending on how you use it. Science shows that repeated exposure to stress, when handled with awareness, rewires the brain. Neural pathways of calmness strengthen, while pathways of reactivity weaken. What once caused rage eventually feels powerless. What once consumed you now rolls off your back. This is not magic, it is mental conditioning. Just as an athlete trains their body to perform under pressure, you can train your mind to remain steady under stress. Every time you face a difficult moment and refuse to surrender to anger, you carve new strength into your identity. You stop seeing yourself as fragile, easily disturbed, easily provoked. You start seeing yourself as unshakable. Each victory, no matter how small, compounds. Over time, you build a reservoir of calm so deep that even chaos cannot drain it. Think of how powerful this makes you. While others waste energy on pointless arguments, you conserve yours for your goals. While others are ruled by emotion, you are guided by clarity. While others break at the first sign of tension, you stand taller with each storm. This is not just emotional mastery, it is life mastery, because the one who controls their state controls their destiny. The world does not reward reactivity, it rewards composure. It rewards those who can think clearly while others panic. It rewards those who stay calm while others collapse. The greatest opportunities often belong to the ones who can remain steady when pressure is highest. And you are building that steadiness right now. In every moment you choose awareness over reaction, strength over anger, clarity over chaos. This is how you transform. Not by wishing the world would stop testing you, but by embracing the tests as the training ground for your highest self. Every trial is your practice. Every challenge is your gym. Every moment of tension is your chance to build the unshakable calm that no one can take away. True mastery of emotion begins with mastery of thought. What you think, you feel. And what you feel, you project into the world. Anger does not appear out of nowhere. It is built thought by thought, interpretation by interpretation, until it spills into action. But here lies your power. You can interrupt that chain at the very beginning. You can choose to direct your thoughts instead of letting them direct you. The mind is not your enemy, it is your tool. But if you do not train it, it will control you. Every irritation starts as a thought, a belief that someone should act differently, a judgment that life should not be this way, a story that you deserve more respect, more attention, more agreement. These thoughts ignite emotion, and the emotion demands reaction. Yet when you become aware of them, when you see them forming instead of blindly following, you reclaim choice. You can rewrite the story before it becomes anger. You can question whether the thought is true, whether it serves you, whether it deserves your energy. And in questioning, the fire begins to fade. Cognitive psychology proves this. The way you interpret events shapes the way you feel about them. Two people can face the same situation. One erupts in anger, the other remains calm, not because the world treated them differently, but because they told themselves a different story. One believed they were attacked, the other believed it was irrelevant. One believed it was personal, the other believed it was noise. The difference is not the event, it is the lens through which it was seen. When you begin to master your lens, life transforms. Insults lose their sting. Disrespect loses its grip. Inconveniences lose their power. Because you stop fueling them with a story that makes them bigger than they are. You start seeing them as passing events, small ripples on the surface of a vast ocean. And when you hold this perspective, your calm becomes unshakable. Directing your thoughts is not suppression. It is not pretending negativity doesn't exist. It is choosing what to magnify and what to release. It is understanding that the thoughts you feed grow stronger and the thoughts you starve grow weaker. If you constantly replay offense, anger grows. If you choose to focus on gratitude, peace expands. Your mind is a garden, and you are the gardener. If you do not choose what to plant, weeds of negativity will take over. But if you tend it with intention, it becomes a place of strength, clarity, and peace. This discipline is not built overnight. At first, your mind will wander. It will fall into old patterns, old judgments, old reactions. But each time you catch it, each time you redirect it, you train it. Slowly your mind becomes your ally. It becomes a force of stability instead of chaos. And with that, you no longer fear being triggered because you trust your ability to handle whatever arises. Imagine living with that level of control. where your thoughts no longer spiral into anger but flow toward peace, where your mind no longer reacts automatically but responds deliberately, where your inner dialogue is no longer a source of torment but a source of strength. That is the power of mental mastery. And once you claim it, nothing external can disturb the calm you have built within. The calmest people are not those who never feel emotion. They are those who know how to master it when it arises. Emotional mastery does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming wise enough to feel without being ruled. It means allowing emotions to exist, but refusing to let them dictate your decisions. This is the difference between those who are dragged through life by impulse and those who walk through life with clarity. The one controlled by emotion is like a leaf blown by the wind. The one who masters emotion is like a tree rooted in the earth. When anger rises, it feels powerful, but it is fragile. It burns hot and fast, consuming energy, clouding judgment, leaving regret in its wake. Calmness feels quiet, but it is unshakable. It endures storms without breaking. It sees clearly when others are blind. It creates outcomes anger could never achieve. Choosing calm over anger is not weakness. It is the greatest demonstration of strength. It proves that you have disciplined your inner world enough to act with wisdom instead of impulse. The key is to see emotion as a signal, not a command. Anger signals that something feels unjust. Frustration signals that something blocks your path. But these signals are not orders to explode or collapse. They are information, and once you treat them as information, you gain freedom. You can acknowledge what you feel without being enslaved by it. You can respond with strategy instead of reaction. This is how leaders rise above chaos while others are consumed by it. Psychology calls this emotional regulation, the ability to manage and redirect emotional energy. Studies show that those who master it not only experience greater peace, but also build stronger relationships, make clearer decisions, and achieve more success. Because they are not blinded by impulse, they are guided by intention. Their emotions serve them instead of sabotaging them. Every time you regulate your emotions, you rewrite your identity. You prove to yourself that you are not fragile, not a victim of triggers, not someone who breaks under pressure. You prove that you are the master of your state, the author of your behavior, the one who decides how the story unfolds. And with each proof, your confidence deepens. You stop fearing difficult people, stressful situations, or unexpected chaos because you trust yourself to remain steady through all of it. This steadiness is rare. Most people are at the mercy of their moods. They wake up happy, and the smallest inconvenience ruins their day. They enter calm, and a single insult throws them into rage. But you are building something different. You are building stability that is not dependent on conditions. You are building strength that does not collapse under pressure. You are building calm that no one can take away. This is what makes you powerful beyond measure. Because while others are prisoners of their emotions, you are free. While others burn themselves out in anger, you conserve your energy for what matters. While others live reactive lives, you live a deliberate one. Emotional mastery is not just about peace, it is about power. The kind of power that makes you untouchable, unstoppable, and unshakable in a world that constantly tries to pull you off balance.